hearing this?
Anybody hear that?
How can we possibly have the slightest idea what to expect?
Well, we're back.
Hold on to your butts.
Welcome to the Jurassic Park Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Jost, and we're here to discuss all things Jurassic, including the movies, TV shows, music, toys, and more. In episode 419, I share with you a little bit of audio I put together while I was reading Jurassic Park, the novel by Michael Crichton. I decided to open it up to the River Raft sequence and read through that, as well as put together some audio sound effects and things like that, so you can kind of imagine the entire scene as it would have been. But I did that in preparation of Jurassic World Rebirth, where we do get to see that scene come to life. And this episode is entirely all about Jurassic Park, the novel, coming to life in Jurassic World Rebirth. So we also have an awesome conversation from Jurassic Park Book Club's host, Ben, who's going to be hosting Simon and Tom today to talk all about those moments from the novel that could potentially come to life in Rebirth. I think it was an awesome conversation. I'm really excited for you to hear their general thoughts on Rebirth and the idea of everything that they're bringing to life, and as well as the stuff from the novel. And don't forget, Tales from a Jurassic World is out now on the Tales from a Jurassic World YouTube channel and Tom Jurassic's Instagram, so please support their incredible work over there. But as always, in addition to those places, you can find Tales from a Jurassic World here on the podcast feed every Tuesday, so please stay tuned for every episode that is part of this final season of Tales from a Jurassic World, so please enjoy those as well. But of course, while you're listening to this episode, hit us up on Blue Sky to continue the conversation. And as always, please check out our live streams over on YouTube, discussing all of the latest Jurassic news from around the world, Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. EST. And please subscribe to my newsletter for all things Jurassic, movies, TV shows, my podcast, other thoughts and appearances. You can find that link to the newsletter on JurassicParkPodcast.com/newsletter. Also, we are looking for everybody's thoughts and opinions and a final vibe check here before Jurassic World Rebirth. We're putting together a big episode all about it, about everybody's thoughts and feelings. So please call into our voicemail line, 732-825-7763, or email me a little voice memo, and I will put all of your thoughts and opinions into that big episode. I know you all have a lot to say about Rebirth through all the marketing, all the toys, all the promos, and everything going on in the world. Please let me know your thoughts and opinions, and I will play them in that episode. But it is time, so let's go ahead and join me as I read through the River Raft sequence in Michael Crichton's novel, Jurassic Park. "Why can't we take the raft?" Tim said. "What raft?" Tim pointed to the low concrete maintenance building with the bars, where they had spent the night. It was 20 yards away, across the field. "I saw a raft back there," he said. Grant immediately understood the advantages. It was now 7 o'clock in the morning. They had at least 8 miles to go. If they could take a raft along the river, they would make much faster progress than going overland. "Let's do it," Grant said. Grant stumbled deep in the gloomy recesses of the building. He pushed past 5-gallon containers of herbicide, tree pruning equipment, spare tires for a Jeep, coils of cyclone fencing, 100-pound fertilizer bags, stacks of brown ceramic insulators, empty motor oil cans, work lights, and cables. "I don't see any raft." "Keep going." Bags of cement, lengths of copper pipe, green mesh, and 2 plastic oars hung on the clips of the concrete wall. "Okay," he said. "But where's the raft?" "It must be there somewhere," Tim said. "You never saw a raft?" "No, I just assumed it was here." Poking around the junk, Grant found no raft. But he did find a set of plans rolled up and speckled with mold from humidity stuck back to the metal cabinet on the wall. He spread the plans on the floor, brushing away a big spider. He looked at them for a long time. "I'm hungry." "Just a minute." They were detailed topographical charts for the main area of the island, where they now were. According to this, the lagoon narrowed near the river they had seen earlier, which twisted northward, right through the aviary, and on to within half a mile of the visitor lodge. He flipped back through the pages. how to get to the lagoon. According to the plans, there should be a door at the back of the building they were in. Grant looked up and saw it, recessed back in the concrete wall. The door was wide enough for a car. Opening it, he saw a paved road running straight down towards the lagoon. The road was dug below ground level, so he couldn't be seen from above. It must be another surface road, and it led to a dock at the edge of the lagoon, and clearly, stenciled on the dock, was raft storage. "Hey," Tim said, "look at this." He held out a metal case to Grant. Opening it, Grant found a compressed air pistol and a cloth belt that held darts. There were 6 darts in all, each as thick as his finger, labeled Moro 709. "Good work, Tim." He slung the belt over his shoulder and stuck the gun in his trousers. "Is it a tranquilizer gun?" "I'd say so." "What about the boat?" Lex said. "I think it's on the dock," Grant said. They started down the road. Grant carried the oars on his shoulder. "I hope it's a big raft," Lex said, "because I can't swim." "Don't worry," he said. "Maybe we can catch some fish," she said. They walked down the road with the sloping embankment rising up on both sides of them. They heard a deep rhythmic snorting sound, but Grant could not see where it was coming from. "Are you sure there's a raft down there?" Lex said, wrinkling her nose. "Probably," Grant said. The rhythmic snorting became louder as they walked, but they also heard a steady droning, buzzing sound. When they reached the end of the road, at the edge of the small concrete dock, Grant froze in shock. The Tyrannosaur was right there. It was sitting upright in the shade of a tree, its hind legs stretched out in front. Its eyes were open, but it was not moving, except for its head, which lifted and fell gently with each snorting sound. The buzzing came from the cloud of flies that surrounded it, crawling over its face and slack jaws, its bloody fangs, and the red haunch of a killed hadrosaur that lay on its side behind the Tyrannosaur. The Tyrannosaur was only 20 yards away. Grant felt sure it must have seen him, but the big animal did not respond. It just sat there. It took him a moment to realize the Tyrannosaur was asleep, sitting up, but asleep. He signaled to Tim and Lex to stay where they were. Grant walked slowly forward onto the dock, in full view of the Tyrannosaur. The big animal continued to sleep, snoring softly. Near the end of the dock, a wooden shed was painted green to blend in with the foliage. Grant quietly unlatched the door and looked inside. He saw half a dozen orange life vests hanging on the wall, several rolls of wire mesh fencing, some coils of rope, and 2 big rubber cubes sitting on the floor. The cubes were strapped tight with flat rubber belts. Rafts. He looked back at Lex. She mouthed, "No boat?" He nodded, "Yes." The Tyrannosaur raised its forelimb to swipe the flies buzzing around its snout, but otherwise it did not move. Grant pulled one of the cubes out onto the dock. It was surprisingly heavy. He freed the straps, found the inflation cylinder. With a loud hiss, the rubber began to expand. And then with a hiss swap, it popped fully open on the dock. The sound was fearfully loud in their ears. Grant turned, stared up at the dinosaur. The Tyrannosaur grunted and snorted. He began to move. Grant braced himself to run, but the animal shifted its ponderous bulk and then settled back against a tree and gave a long, growling belch. Lex looked disgusted, waving her hand in front of her face. Grant was soaked in sweat from the tension. He dragged the rubber raft across the dock. It flopped onto the water with a loud splash. The dinosaur continued to sleep. Grant tied the boat up to the dock and returned to the shed to take out 2 life preservers. He put these in the boat and then waved for the kids to come out onto the dock. Pale with fear, Lex waved back, "No." He gestured, "Yes." The Tyrannosaur continued to sleep. Grant stabbed in the air with an emphatic finger. Lex came silently. He gestured for her to get into the raft. Then Tim got in, and they both put on their life vests. Grant got in and pushed off. The raft drifted silently out into the lagoon. Grant picked up his paddles and fitted them into the oar locks. They moved farther from the dock. Lex sat back and sighed loudly with relief. Then she looked stricken and put her hands over her mouth. Her body shook with muffled sounds. She was suppressing a cough. She always coughed at the wrong times. "Lex," Tim whispered fiercely, looking back towards the shore. She shook her head miserably and pointed to her throat. He knew what that meant. A tickle in her throat. What she needed was a drink of water. Grant was rowing, and Tim leaned over to the side of the raft and scooped his hand in the lagoon, holding his cupped hand towards her. Lex coughed loudly, explosively. In Tim's ears, the sound echoed across the water like a gunshot. The tyrannosaur yawned lazily and scratched behind its ear with its hind foot, just like a dog. He yawned again. It was groggy after its big meal, and it woke up slowly. On the boat, Lex was making little gargling sounds. "Lex, shut up," Tim said. "I can't help it," she whispered, and then she coughed again. Grant rowed hard, moving the raft powerfully into the center of the lagoon. On the shore, the tyrannosaur stumbled to its feet. "I couldn't help it, Timmy," Lex shrieked miserably. "I couldn't help it." "Shh." Grant was rowing as fast as he could. "Anyway, it doesn't matter," she said. "We're far enough away. He can't swim." "Of course he can swim, you little idiot," Tim shouted at her. On the shore, the tyrannosaur stepped off the dock and plunged into the water. He moved strongly through the lagoon after them. "Well, how should I know?" she said. "Everybody knows tyrannosaurs can swim. It's in all the books. Anyway, all reptiles can swim. Snakes can. Of course snakes can, you idiot." "Settle down," Grant said. "Hold on to something." Grant was watching the tyrannosaur, noticing how the animal swam. The tyrannosaur was now chest deep in the water, but it could hold its big head high above the surface. Then Grant realized the animal wasn't swimming. It was walking, because moments later, only the very top of the head, the eyes and nostrils, protruded above the surface. By then, it looked like a crocodile, and it swam like a crocodile, swinging its big tail back and forth, so the water churned behind it. Behind the head, Grant saw the hump of the back and the ridges along the length of the tail as it occasionally broke the surface. Exactly like a crocodile, he thought unhappily. The biggest crocodile in the world. "I'm sorry, Dr. Grant," Lex wailed. "I didn't mean it." Grant glanced over his shoulder. The lagoon was no more than 100 yards wide here, and they had almost reached the center. If he continued, the water would become shallow again. The tyrannosaur would be able to walk again, and it could move faster in shallow water. Grant swung the boat around and began to row north. "What are you doing?" The tyrannosaur was now just a few yards away. Grant could hear its sharp snorting breaths as it came closer. Grant looked at the paddles but they were light plastic, not weapons at all. The tyrannosaur threw its head back and opened its jaws wide, showing rows of curved teeth, and then in a great muscular spasm lunged forward towards the raft, just missing the rubber gunwale. The huge skull slapping down, the raft rocking away on the crest of the splash. The tyrannosaur sank below the surface, leaving gurgling bubbles. The lagoon was still. Lex gripped the gunwale handles and looked back. "Did he drown?" "No," Grant said. He saw bubbles, then a faint ripple along the surface, coming towards the boat. "Hang on," he shouted, as the head bucked up beneath the rubber, bending the boat and lifting it into the air, spinning them crazily before it splashed down again. "Do something!" Alexis screamed. "Do something!" Grant pulled the air pistol out of his belt. It looked pitifully small in his hand. But there was a chance that, if he shot the animal in a sensitive spot, in the eye or the nose. The tyrannosaur surfaced beside the boat, opened its jaws, and roared. Grant aimed and fired. The dart flashed in the light and smacked into the cheek. The tyrannosaur shook its head and roared again. And suddenly they heard an answering roar, floating across the water towards them. Looking back, Grant saw the juvenile T-Rex on the shore, crouched over the killed sauropod. claiming the kill as its own. The juvenile slashed at the carcass, then raised its head high and bellowed. The big Tyrannosaurus saw it too, and the response was immediate. It turned back to protect its kill, swimming strongly towards the shore. "He's going away!" Lex squealed, clapping her hands. "He's going away! Nah, 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 stupid dinosaur!" From the shore, the juvenile roared defiantly. Enraged, the big Tyrannosaur burst from the lagoon at full speed, water streaming from its enormous body as it raced up the hill past the dock. The juvenile ducked its head and fled, its jaws still filled with ragged flesh. The big Tyrannosaur chased it, racing past the dead sauropod, disappearing over the hill. They heard its final threatening bellow, and then the raft moved to the north, around the bend in the lagoon to the river. Exhausted from rowing, Grant collapsed back, his chest heaving. He couldn't catch his breath. He lay gasping in the raft. "Are you okay, Dr. Grant?" Lex asked. "From now on, will you just do what I tell you?" "Okay," she sighed, as if he had just made the most unreasonable demand in the world. She trailed her arm in the water for a while. "You stopped rowing," she said. "I'm tired," Grant said. "Then how come we're still moving?" Grant sat up. She was right. The raft drifted steadily north. There must be a current. The current was carrying them north, towards the hotel. He looked at his watch and was astonished to see it was 15 minutes past 7. Only 15 minutes had passed since he had last looked at his watch. It seemed like 2 hours. Grant lay back against the rubber gunwales, closed his eyes, and slept. Let's go ahead and check in on that roundtable with Ben, Simon, and Tom as we hear how Jurassic Park the novel could be brought to life in Jurassic World Rebirth.
I'm buttoned up with shirt, my tattoos are covered, side parting's on form. Next minute, I'm just chilling with you guys. So it's very flipped, but there we go. Right.
You could practically be a spy.
Yeah, probably not, to be honest with you. I just end up boring people to death talking about Jurassic Park all day. They're like, a lot of people I know are like, what do you guys talk about? I'm like, do you want me to answer that properly, or do you just want me, you know what I mean?
Or are you just asking that to be polite?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, be careful, because otherwise you're going to find out a lot of information that you'll do nothing with whatsoever. Okay, right. So I don't know whether I'll keep this bit in, but for everybody listening, we have actually recorded this once already about a week ago, and I screwed up and lost the audio. So we're going to go again. So I'm going to start in a different way, I think. Tom, last time we were chatting, you had just acquired the, I'm going to say, mega teeth, 6-armed super beast from the new
Distortus
film.
Rex. Yeah.
Excellent. And you jumped in with a bit of a theory on the Indominus or some sort of through line there. I don't know if you could talk about that.
Yeah, I think so. Looking at the mouth of the Distortus on the toy, it looks very similar to the way that Mattel did the mouth of the Indominus. And I think with the time frame with when that laboratory sequence is set, it would just make a lot of sense for the Distortus to be like almost a failed attempt at the Indominus, or some kind of experiment with hybridization that didn't quite work out, and so it made mutants instead. So I just found it interesting seeing the kind of parallels to the Indominus in that toy, because I've not really picked up on them with anything else.
That's cool. And you mentioned there where it comes in the film. Where do you think that particular sequence is going to sit? Because I think the trailer's a bit misleading.
So they did confirm it. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's somewhere before Jurassic World. I think it might be 2010. It's somewhere in that modern InGen era is when that kind of lab sequence takes place. So I have no idea if they are going to connect it to Jurassic World or not. There's a lot of talk about whether they are going to bother with connectivity or whether it's going to be a kind of clean slate. I personally think it would be a shame if it's just entirely a clean slate. But we'll have to see what they do and how far they go to commit that. It's weird in my mind if there's a random mutant, a like Proto Indominus Rex, and a Scorpius Rex all existing at the same time. I think they all have to be part of the same program, but whether they are or not, we'll see.
Yeah, whether they're going to link it up. Simon, what do you think? Do you think they'll lean into the world movies as well and try and pull that all together?
I think if they didn't, it'd be a huge missed opportunity. I think it would be sort of silly of them to act as though he didn't exist, because there's such a big thing that we all know, and it might be nice to just get little subtle hints if it is gonna be sort of set just before, just little subtle hints of, and as I mean Tom's picked up on the Indominus link there, it just a line like this says Project Indominus,
Yeah.
something that shows that there's a link there, and maybe not hit you around the face with how closely they are linked, but then just drop in. There's still a link there. I think that'd be quite a cool thing for them to do.
Something I was wondering, but there's been absolutely, well, as far as I know, there's been nothing on this at all. Whether we will see any characters from any of the previous Jurassic movies, from 1 through to 6. Have you heard anything about that, Tom? Or are we just on a new cast here?
So we're on a new cast, but they have confirmed that Dr. Loomis has some kind of connection to Alan Grant, and that is the only connection that's going to be in the film.
Well, I mean, that's exciting. I didn't know that.
I mean, they're making a big deal out of it. I reckon it will be a throwaway line. I reckon it will be
Right.
something like, "Oh, I went to his lecture in 2003," or something like that.
Right, so it's not like I'm Billy's brother or
No,
anything.
no. Yeah, Loomis is actually the married name. His surname used to be Brennan.
Yeah, oh, that's a shame. But another shot I liked in the most recent trailer is the well, helicopter crash. Are we saying plane crash? The when he's looking up there, that reminded me of when we're looking up at Ben in Jurassic Park 3, hanging out of the tree there. So I wondered if they were trying to borrow that shot. So jumping into the Crichton stuff, the links between maybe the first two novels and this film, probably the most obvious one is going to be the Rex in the water. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, Simon. What do you think about seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, I know when we spoke last time about it, and now I think you can see there's a lot of inference. Yeah, David Koepp, who's heavily involved in this and heavily involved in the original Jurassic, obviously a massive fan of Crichton, used a lot of his book in the original, and I think now he's gone back to probably the plans that he might have had the first time round, or the bits that he wanted to get in, and I think that this riverboat scene, it feels like everybody, when we talk about the novels and we talk about parts that we'd like to have seen in a Jurassic Park film or a Jurassic World film, we always come back to that scene that in the book of the jungle tour on the water and the boat on the water, and it looks like he's gone, what do I want to do? What's cool? What do I like the sounds of? And he's gone back to the source material again, because there's a wealth to be mined from it. There's still stuff in there that they could use over and over again. And I think that they've gone back to that and went, right, that's a cool sequence. That will get people's juices flowing. That'll get people thinking. It's a bit like, when you're a child and you watch the original Jurassic and there's bits that are scary. There'll be children afraid to go on water and little boats in case a T-Rex plunges in after them. And that's what you want from a Jurassic film. You want that little bit of peril, don't you? That little bit of terror. And I think when you read the books, and when I read the books when I was younger, that scene was quite scary, but also quite fun and an adventure. And I think that's what we're going to get from this. We're going to get an adventure that has that enough thrill to keep children and young adults like entertained and like, oh, what's going to go on? And the adults to go, oh, that's quite cool. And we've never seen that before, because we haven't. I know when they did the original Jurassic, I think the idea of them plunging the fully animatronic T-Rex into a wall is probably something they wouldn't have considered, because when it rained slightly, it started roaring and kept them up awake all night. So
Yeah.
I'm functioning. So I think now that they've got the technology to do it, I'm really glad that they've done it. And like I said, Kath obviously loves the Crichton stuff, and I think he's going to have borrowed quite a lot from these two novels, as we'll probably discuss
Yeah.
now.
I spent many a year not really being able to go into my kitchen on my own after the first one. So that, you saying about kids getting scared of the water, it's quite possible. Tom, where do you think that scene's going to pop up in the movie? Because I feel like in the trailer, I don't know, I feel like it's at the start-ish part of the movie, but I think I'm probably wrong.
So I have changed my mind on this a little bit since we spoke last, actually.
Okay.
Which is I've just seen like a couple of little snippets here and there in some of the promos that makes me think that what happens is our film starts with the mosasaur attack, either the mosasaur or the Spinosaurus attack. And then I think what happens is they have to evacuate the boat because they're going to scuttle it. So I think Zora and some of the crew stay on the boat to scuttle it, but they send the family off in the raft to get to safety. And I think that they then get separated, where obviously the boat gets grounded. I've just knocked something over on my desk. The boat gets grounded, and then I think the raft ends up going further upstream for some reason. So I kind of think it might be that point where the family have been rescued, and then they get separated again.
Right. Okay. And maybe there's what, like a rendezvous where they're all trying to get to?
So it's interesting because then the whole question in my head is, well, actually, the family aren't in the Titanosaur sequence or the Quetzalcoatl sequence. So that
That's true.
almost makes Zora and her team very ethically questionable if that's the case. Because do they just go, oh, we'll just leave the family to sort themselves out and we'll go and do our mission? And I don't, with the kind of dynamic we've seen, I don't get the feeling that they're characters that would do that. So that makes me question it. But then it could be that they're separated for that whole period of time and they then rendezvous at the night time when they go to the old facility, because we know that they're together for the petrol station and we know that they're together for the emergence of the Distortus. So that's a decent chunk of time where they are together again.
No, that's cool. I feel like with you mentioning the garage scene there, I think there's a couple of callbacks there. Obviously, we've got the garage sequence in The Lost World. Well, the short piece when Malcolm gets thrown in and then thrown back out again. And I know because they went to San Diego, they didn't film what they necessarily planned to film of that whole sort of chase sequence, the Raptor. So I wonder if they're going to do a bit more there. And also, it's a big part of the novel. Towards the end of The Lost World, we spend a lot of time. Well, they get cooped up in the garage, don't they? They're trying to stay away from the Raptors.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, just remind me of the name of the flying mega.
The Mutadon.
Yes, that's it,
Yeah.
Mutadon. Simon, what do we think about the Mutadon, and what do you think about the garage sequence as far as what we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think again, it's going back to the novels, which are so rich in things, and I think they're trying to bring it into the modern era, while also going, well, what can we tap into that is very well written, very well builds suspense, builds all sorts of excitement, and they're going, well, how can we use this in this? Because um, I know we said previously that I think the idea of using these hybrid mutant dinosaurs in a way, it's because you can make them into the big bad. Because I think now when people are watching it, the dinosaurs, we see them as animals. We've grown up, and even though you were scared of raptors, you like them. You know they're being friendly raptors, hasn't there, and stuff. But even like T-Rexes, as a kid, you're terrified of them. Then when you see Rexy, but when you get these hybrid dinosaurs, it's a lot easier to not think of them as monsters rather than to think of them as dinosaurs. And I think then to put that into what we know as of the garage sequence from the books, I think it starts to make a lot more sense, because you can build that dread, excitement, fun without thinking like, oh, it's an animal and animals would get bored and would run off or whatever. I think it helps make a movie because of the way we think now, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw I don't know who posted this up, but someone did a parallel or a shot for shot for the kitchen sequence with the raptors versus this new animal in the garage,
Mm.
with the claw tapping on
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
floor. It's sort of looking up and looking over and stuff like that. So I feel like there's a bit of mirroring going on there as well, which is quite
Yeah.
cool. I wondered, either of you, maybe Tom first, whether you've picked up on anything else from the trailer that takes you back to either of the books,
So
any of the ideas.
I do. I want to jump in on the garage quickly, just because there's been an interesting development since we last spoke,
Oh,
which
good.
is that Funko have unveiled their new product line, and it could mean nothing. Okay, so very important disclaimer there. Oftentimes we get toys of things that aren't in the films. However, that's usually like Mattel who will do that. It's a lot less common for Funko to make something that's not in the film. And one of the products they've revealed is what appears to be a green camouflaged Carnotaurus. So it could be
Shut the front
very
door.
cool to actually see that in the film. I mean, I can't remember if Funko made the Carno before. If they have, then it would have been quite an easy recolor, so that could explain it. But equally, if they haven't made it before and it's suddenly appearing, that might hint at that being in the film.
Well, I mean, this throws a massive spanner into our theory of the work. We were trying to figure out
Yeah.
what would replace the Carnotaurs in terms of what could camouflage and come in. They just went,
Yeah.
no, we'll just use a Carnotaur. I mean, that would be cool, because we know, again, that whole section of the book, when you're reading that, that is scary. It's a good read.
Oh my days.
So if they're just going to recreate that, I mean, that would be fantastic. And we've said, and I know I've just said that David Kopp's a big fan of the source material, a big fan of Crichton, and it is like he's went, right, no, that I'm using that. I hadn't seen that, Tom, but it is really interesting that's cropped up, because if that is the case, then it looks like we're getting what we said we'd like, and we were trying to figure out how they could fit it in with the newer versions of the dinosaurs, but instead they might have just went, let's just use what we've got.
Tom.
I reckon if we do get the Carnos, it won't be the sequence. I think it will just be like a little nod to people. So maybe
Okay.
like the Mutodons do what they're gonna do, the characters escape, and then you just see a Carnotaurus in the background, like uncamouflage or something.
It's super exciting, to be honest. I'm still getting my head around the idea. Or just going to go wild with my theories. What about if the Carnotaurus is effectively saves them in a way, because all of a sudden it appears, and the Mutodon gets out of there because it's in the wrong territory or something like that.
It could be interesting. I think the sense I get for it is that the Mutodons are kind of going to be alpha predators, because I think it will have been them that took the helicopter down. So I get the sense that they're kind of the thing that everything else is scared of.
Can I ask, have you seen the packaging to that Funko?
Yes.
So is it Rebirth packaging or Jurassic Park?
Let's open up the email that the press photos are on.
Because that would be potentially interesting. I think if they've gone Jurassic Park, it might just be a sort of a spiritual callback to the novel. Whereas if they've put the Rebirth on there, that's interesting.
It is Rebirth.
It is.
Yeah.
This is awesome news, Tom.
I
think we were destined to re-record just so I could get that bit of information, to be honest with you. When do they release that?
So that is coming out 1st of July, I think.
Right, so bang on the day before, basically.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, that's exciting.
And it's like green with red highlights.
That might have to be a birthday present to myself, because my birthday is the 2nd of July, so it's kind of perfect for me this year. So 1 minute past midnight, I'm going to be sat in the cinema somewhere in the UK watching that movie. So,
nice.
I might go 2 or 3 times that day. We'll see how I go. So, okay, so we've got the garage. That's straight out of the novel. We've got the river sequence. Anything else that you guys can think of that we might see that harks back to the novels?
Well, yeah, I had an idea which was around the hidden raptor tunnels that we saw that we get in the Jurassic Park novels at the end, where Grant goes into the tunnels and discovers where the raptors live. And I was thinking that there might be scope for that, is how some of the animals move around the island. Um, and it might be that they find the underground layers of some of these dinosaurs, and that's how some of them have ended up surviving. But also that's where they're thriving as well. You know, some of them are having laying nests and stuff. And I know another idea I had was, and it's a sequence that I'm desperate to see. It's like for me, if you rank them, the River Raft would be number one from what I'd want to see from the books, and we know that's happening. But number two, I've always liked the section where they have the baby dinosaur in the book, and then they end up having to use eggs that they've poisoned or something to roll towards the raptors, and the raptors eat them, and then they die. And I think because this whole book seems to be about, this whole film seems to be about collecting eggs and collecting DNA, and I have a feeling there might be somewhere where someone takes an egg that they shouldn't, a bit Jurassic Park 3 like, but they end up having to use an antigen or something, and they have to inject it, and then that egg is rolled towards a raptor or a mutodon, and that might be how it meets its demise. And I liked it so much in the book because it was clever. It wasn't a big bang ending. It was like, well, let's use our intelligence, and it foiled someone being able to take something. So if you do get one of your main characters who are gonna trick somebody or try and turn a profit, it would stop that, but also make it so that that person doesn't have to essentially be a big bad guy. It could be someone who's just trying to make a bit of money, but then can't, and then realize the error of the way, and chooses to inject an egg and roll it and save the day in that way.
I love that. I mean, that would, like you say, it was very clever of Crichton. He didn't have the kind of the big guns going off and everyone running around like maniacs trying to get off the island. It was much more considered, and he sort of had to develop that plan there and then on the spot. So I think that would be very, very cool to see. And actually, with you mentioning the eggs, that's also very Lost World with Dodgson and his team
Yeah.
going onto the island, onto Sauna there to try and collect the eggs and actually get the eggs off the island in the novel. But it's kind of has the same feel to it, really. This time. What were your thoughts, Tom?
Well, I mean, something we touched on last time is the fact that there is a photo where Krebs is like sat in the Jeep and Zora is lying underneath it. So it looks like he might be going full Dodgson on her and playing that evil character. I think everything we've seen with Krebs makes it quite clear that he's going to have a character switch. Like in both of the trailers, there's moments where he suddenly got the briefcase by himself and he's speeding away in the Jeep. So I think you'll find out that he's got an ulterior motive like a Dodgson character, and then he'll ultimately meet his demise. So I do think they're going to lean on that. I wonder how far they're going to take it though, because it seems like whereas in the novel for the Lost World, Dodgson kind of is all nicey nice towards Sarah for quite a while, and then he very quickly shifts his attitude and tries to kill her, and it's kind of like within the first sort of third of the book, you know that. Whereas the sense I get with Krebs is he's going to be playing the nice guy for a lot longer and then betray them a lot later in the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, isn't it? But I think you're onto something there. I think there's a backstory, or there's an ulterior motive for him being on the island for sure. Yeah, it's very exciting to see what they're going to do with that. I just wonder, for me, the question I have from what I've seen and as much as I've learned about the movie so far is I struggle to work out how the family gets on this island. I get the guys looking for the eggs and all the reasons that they could be there. Did the family crash on the helicopter, do we think? Or, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it depends on if you both want to know, because there is behind the scenes footage that they've released now that kind of shows you what happens.
I'll
Okay,
can I preface that with, I remember last time we recorded, I remember saying if there's a film that I know I'm going to watch, I try not to watch too many trailers or hear too much, because I like to go in and not think I know it all before I know it all. So I might let you two discuss, and I'll comically cover my ears like I'm a child if you want to.
no, you're okay. I think let's leave it because if this episode drops before the movie, it's not going to go down very well. So,
Yeah.
Tom, that's going to have to be your secret for the time being, I'm
Yeah.
afraid. But okay, I shouldn't have asked the question. That's fair enough. Um, well, we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. I think the trailer throws us in all sorts of different directions. I'm not sure what the timelines are going to be, and so on. The bit that I'm intrigued about is when we're in the, I don't know, the facility where we've got the big bad beast. It looks very clean and organized and modern, and I'm just thinking, is that adjacent to the old part of the InGen facility, or are we on a different part of the island or something like this? I'm intrigued
So
by that.
and we spoke about this a little bit last time, because obviously there's lots of kind of excavation equipment and stuff like that on the island. So my theory right now is this was the island before they discovered the mosquito DNA extraction method, essentially. So they were probably trying to extract a load of kind of organic fossil matter and use that to get the DNA instead by grinding it all down. I think then this island was deactivated as soon as they realized that they needed to do it the other way in Costa Rica, and so that's it, it was done. And then I think what probably happened was the island was reactivated when Masrani Global took over. So Masrani Global were probably looking at developing more facilities and decided that this island was a good place to build one. I mean, if you take the viral marketing as an example, that shows that Masrani Global had other facilities. They had a facility called the Martul site that was in Siberia, obviously in Jurassic Park or Jurassic World the show. There's the facility that's established in Chile as well. And as far as we know, that's meant to be considered canonical. So I think it's just another case of actually we're in this era where they're building up towards Jurassic World and they've got lots of different facilities doing different work everywhere.
Interesting.
The cleanliness as well, it doesn't have to be, from what I've seen of the trailer, I don't know whether that has to be when we're seeing the family and Zora on the island. That could be this is what happened previously and now this thing's out there. Because there's
Oh,
More like
100%, yeah. Like I mean, in the trailer itself, you see the lab at two different
exactly,
points in time.
yeah.
You have the InGen flashback, which we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
so the late 2010 era, and then in the current day, it is a lot more decrepit and destroyed, where it's got overgrown and abandoned again.
Yeah.
So it's the same place, is what we think.
Just in two different time periods. It'd be interesting to see how they explain something so big being able to survive with on that island with the predators have, but I suppose they'll come into that. And then I know the question that led on to this before was about things from the novel that we'd like to see, and I think Tom's point on Sarah and on Zora being like Sarah, I think would be brilliant, because in the novel Sarah Hardin was like badass. She was brilliant. She was so cool and independent and fought off all these Dodson by herself, And I think that it would be good to see a female lead being as cool as she was and as independent and as strong. And but so I think that would be a good thing, and I think that we've got that. I think the character that we're seeing from Scarlett Johansson so far seems to indicate that she's got that. Well, I can do it myself. Where no, the Sarah Hardin we got in the actual Lost World film, she was brilliantly portrayed by Julianne Moore, but we didn't get that idea of I can really look after myself. Sarah Hardin in the novel is thrown from a boat and is one-on-one with the main bad guy, trying to push them, basically having a foot fight so you can push the other one
Yeah.
towards a T-Rex. And I get what from when you watch the trailer, that this character feels like she's the sort of person who would win in that sort of battle against the evil company bad guy who's now trying to steal stuff. You feel like, no, she's got a chance of winning this. And I think that's probably where that character's come from a bit. Like, let's have that really strong, believable female character who actually, can do all of this. And I think that's probably another little idea that's just been plucked. Like, let's have that character who can hold her own, but there's a reason for her to be able to hold her own.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's really good. I think you're right. I think they are trying to do that, and I think it's a good. I think she's really well cast as well.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you, I'm really looking forward to see what she does with that character. Yeah, it's definitely they're definitely plucking a lot from. I think they're picking a lot from the novel. To be honest with you, I think they've really gone back and looked at different aspects and tried to pull it all together for this. So
it's
very
interesting
intriguing.
because I think apart from the river sequence, most of it seems to be from the Lost World,
True.
which makes sense because that was definitely the least faithful of the two adaptions.
Yeah.
So actually, they left a lot of on the cutting room floor there
Mm.
that they could really play with. I do wonder if we're going to end this with the novel ending and get the napalm on the island as well. I'm curious if that's something they do this time around, or if they're actually going to give this island like sanctuary status. I could see them doing either one of those things, and it would be kind of cool in a way after in Jurassic World them teasing a natural sanctuary
Yeah.
to then actually have a natural sanctuary that is out there somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. I like the napalm idea as well because it could be that it's an isolated story if they do that. Because you can never return to that island if they've just completely destroyed it. So it's kind of like almost like a Jurassic adventure within the whole story, within the whole timeline.
Exactly. Yeah.
One thing I was thinking as well is presumably then if we've got like a back in the day versus a ruined facility, is this ground zero, do we think now? Is this the very, very first island before Nublar was a consideration or Sauna? What do you think about that, Simon?
Oh, it's a good question. I think there's a chance that it is, and the fact that you've got the things that have gone so wrong, like, if you look at the I always forget its name, but Tom, you reminds every single time.
Distortus.
Distortus. And if you look at how wrong that's gone compared to the other dinosaurs that they've been able to breed and create, it wouldn't surprise me if it's the testing facility where things were allowed to go wrong. Because if you're going to do something, as genetically impossible as this is, things are going to go wrong, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's where we get this is why things look so strange and so weird, because we put too much frog in this one, and oh no, we've put too much cuttlefish or whatever ingredient that they've used from the DNA strands that they've pulled together, and then and you end up with this really weird genetic modification or something. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this was the ground zero before possibly World, but maybe even Park.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of text in both books around the difficulties in trying to actually, recreate the dinosaurs. Problems with birth or early death.
Yeah.
From the infants. There's the DX virus on Sauna. So the theme is right on point, really. This time, I think. What were you going to say there, Tom?
I was going to say, I think it is definitely going to be more of that world era.
Yeah.
I think that they've given us a deliberate misdirect with all the lines about Jurassic Park. I think that, because I just don't see like animals like Quetzalcoatlus existing but when that first park existed. Because if Hammond had something like a Quetzalcoatlus that was already bred, why would he have bothered with the pteranodons on Sauna when he's got something better? So I feel like this is I think Simon's right that this is an experimental island. I think it will be before and running up to Jurassic World. So it won't be before Jurassic
Right.
World opened. I think this will be like that early 2000s park, or not park, that early 2000s facility that is kind of just developing stuff in the background as they're getting ready for Jurassic World. Because, I mean, something to think about is I think initially I don't think Henry Wu came on board for Jurassic World straight away in the timeline. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I'm sure that Masrani acquired InGen before Henry Wu then started his work. So presumably there would have been other people working on developing things, and this could have just been one of those other facilities that other scientists were developing.
Yeah, I just thought of something actually when you were saying about Quetzalcoatlus there, Tom. As far as we know, that's not a mixture or a hybrid, is it? It
No,
is a Quetzalcoatlus.
yeah, it is a cat.
Yeah, so you make a good point there. If they actually had one bred without issues, they probably would have used it, wouldn't they, on Nublar?
Exactly. So I'm looking at the timeline now, and it looks like 2002, the InGen security team arrived on Nublar, and that's when construction was started on Jurassic World as well. And then if I scroll further,
Let me just interject and say that's a movie I want to see, by the way. I'd love to see
then
that.
2003 is when Henry Wu's accident was left on Isla Sorna. So that's presumably the Spinosaurus.
All hail the Spinosaurus.
So maybe Wu could have very well already been working with Masrani at that point then, which kind of, that's where so Wu got permission to make the Indominus in 2012. So interestingly, that's 2 years after that flashback scene. So for all we know, he might have been experimenting it without permission from Masrani, and then got so far with the development and took it to Masrani to say, look, I've been developing this. Can we now take it further? The only thing that doesn't make sense, and the thing that really throws it all off, is the Scorpius Rex was created in 2008. So we're between the Scorpius and the approval for the Indominus, basically.
Yeah.
But then if he's messing around trying all sorts of different things, you're going to get all sorts of different creatures, aren't you?
Yeah, and he chooses to freeze the Scorpius. He makes the decision to hide that. So it might be that he then went, okay, we need to try something else. And maybe actually, you could argue the Scorpius event happening on Nublar might have forced him to move his development offshore.
Yeah, where there's fewer things to be attacked and go wrong. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Exciting
Man,
times,
it would
guys.
be cool if Henry Wu popped up in this film.
Can I just say as well, it's something we said last time, but I'm just so happy that it's back on an island. I like the Jurassic World films, I do, but I love the fact that it's back on an island, because I know these films, we loved them, we're adults, we loved them since we were kids. But one of the reasons why Jurassic Park works so well, I think, was because it's set on an island, and it makes it feel like it could happen. It makes it feel more real, because we know, and children know, when they look outside, there aren't really dinosaurs walking around in the real world as much as we'd all want them to, I think. Within reason. But when something's on an island like this, it feels like it could happen. Like there could be a corporation who've secretly developed dinosaurs on an island, and you can go there. And I think it makes it more real, and I think it makes it more scary. And I think that's what I think David kept going back to this. I think has made it a little bit more like this could happen. Could there be a company that are creating a Distortus? Like with it. Could this happen? And I think that will add to like the fear, the dread, the excitement. I think that's what I'm getting the sense from this film when I'm watching the trailers, and when I'm excited for it, because it looks like they've got a new spin on something, but also they're also going a bit back to basics while also building on stuff. And I'm loving the fact that we're going back to, there's a boat that's probably being marooned and shipwrecked, and then the people are on an island. There's probably no way off, and it's going to make it feel more real and more tense. And as a child, like, which is sort of what the films were initially aimed at, like that sort of the older children, and then adults as well. It will bring everybody in, because adults will go, well, I remember when I watched that the first time, and oh yeah, it is scary, and children will be thinking, that's so scary, that could be real, that does happen, and you will get kids going to the parents like, where is that? Where's the
Yeah.
dinosaurs? And that's what I love about it. It makes it just that little bit more believable.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because I actually did go to a world map back in the day, by the way, guys, before we had the Google, and I did actually look for Nublar.
Oh, we all
I
did.
did think
We
it
all,
was. I did think it was real. I thought it was a
Oh
real island.
man.
So I went to Costa Rica and I went left at Costa Rica. And no, I mean, I really did try. And there are scatterings of islands, but none of them in the shape of Nublar. So it's kind of like,
Mm.
yeah.
Was that time you got abandoned on an island?
Oh, honestly, it's yeah. I did the same with Site B as well. So
yeah.
yeah,
No, I was going to say, my mum
uh,
and dad couldn't understand why I suddenly had a fascination and wanted to visit Costa Rica when I was younger. And
yeah. Me too. It's on my bucket
yeah, it's
list.
still on mine. My wife now, like when we wake up a place we want to go, Costa Rica's still like really high up there. I know it's a beautiful place, but it's purely it's just on the chance that there's an island that I can float across to.
Yeah,
But
I want to go to, is it Palo Alto, the airport? I just want to go
yeah,
there because that's where Dodgson in the novel is there with his Gillette can. It's not even not even a Barbasol as it happens, but. Yeah, we shall see. Well, thanks, guys. I mean, this is great. I've got a couple of questions before we shoot off. Simon, last time we spoke, you were heading out to Legoland
that's
over
right.
here in
Yeah,
the UK.
yeah.
You've since been. So is there any? Did you see any Jurassic Lego when you were there?
No, but no,
Oh,
I know I was disappointed, but I am looking forward to the new sets going out. I know Tom's a
Mhm.
big Lego fan, aren't you, as well? And we briefly
Yeah.
spoke about it last time, but I am looking forward to getting all the new sets. And unfortunately, the big huge T-Rex skeleton wasn't at Legoland, so I couldn't point to
Oh.
it and
really?
tell my wife that's what I want for Christmas. So I had to show her on the phone. I was like, "Oh no, yeah, this wasn't here, and that's definitely what I'm going to be asking for Christmas." So probably best looking for
Fingers
it now.
crossed.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You'd think they'd have that there, wouldn't you? Really, of all the places.
Yeah.
yeah,
Tom,
I
you've gone.
Yeah, I was gonna say I need to upset you a little bit, Simon, because I don't think I'm gonna be getting many of the Lego sets.
oh,
I want them, but I don't have space for them. And it's it's really hard because this time around, so for Dominion, Lego helped out and sent me a couple of samples for Jurassic Collectibles, so I was able to review them. But this time around, I've not got any samples for stuff, so I'm just buying it all myself.
yeah,
And I've kind of hit that threshold where I'm like, okay, I can only afford the stuff I really want.
yeah.
And for my toy photography, sadly, that is Mattel, so it's meant that Lego has drawn the short straw this time around.
So I've got a little boy, so I can just blame it all on him
Yeah,
and just
I like
Absolutely.
that.
really
Yeah.
want this Lego set, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
What
gonna
I'm
love it.
hearing is I need a child.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Get busy, Tom. It's your way into getting all the stuff you could possibly dream of. But that leads me actually. That segues me nicely over to you, Tom, because you've got some news on Fanatic
Yes.
that you might be able to share.
Yeah, so I mean, at the time of doing this, if this goes out on. So when do you think this is going out, Ben? This is going to
Oh my
really date
gosh.
the episode.
It is. I haven't got it to hand, but I believe it's the end of June, so it's going to be just
Okay.
before Rebirth,
So
possibly just after, but we'll see.
let me check my diary before I say this because I need to get this right. But
Okay.
if you are listening to this episode, dear viewer, before let's say Thursday the 26th of June. So if we have not hit midnight on Thursday the 26th of June yet, you still have a chance to enter some giveaways. So I'm partnering up with Fnatic and we're doing 4 giveaways over the course of Jurassic June. So we've got the Ranger commemorative box set that we're giving away. We've got the T-Rex feeding show ticket that we're giving away. one of the raptor claw bottle openers, a few other bits and pieces. And one of the coolest things is something that they have literally just released, which I'm going to get out of the case very carefully, which is their brand new collectible coin. So this says Clever Girl, and it's got a Velociraptor on it. I'm holding it up to the camera, but this is a podcast, so this is literally just for you two right now. And then on the back it says, "We're being hunted," with Muldoon's hat as well. And what I discovered just before you joined, Simon, was there is a little art card insert that has got some stylized artwork of the Jurassic Park Raptor as well.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So that's just tucked in there. So we will be giving that away as one of the prize packs as well. And that, if I remember correctly, also comes with a set of Jurassic Park coasters. So basically, if you are listening to this before the date I mentioned, head on over to my Instagram and enter the giveaways before they close, because they will be closing imminently.
Excellent. That's really cool. I love that coin. I mean, it's really nice. And the art card there with the border, no one can see it, but the border on the art card's really lovely. It's like it's really cool. It's like the stuff we got in the faux brochure from the original Jurassic Park there. So yeah, really loving that. Okay, so we're nearly there, guys. We're nearly at Rebirth. Tom, I just want to say I went all soppy on you last time, but I'm just going to mention it again. Congratulations on Tales.
Thank you.
That's coming to the end. But I've really enjoyed that. So I just want to give a shout out to that. It's a lot of work. I know. I'm sure it is. I know you've enjoyed it, Simon, haven't you?
Yeah, I've loved it, and then I know since we spoke, there's been a few more released, and I'm starting to train for a marathon, and I've been really enjoying listening to them as I've been running. What I toyed with the idea of blocking them and trying to save them all up and listen to them all in one go.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest with you, I couldn't wait, so I've just been listening to them as they've been coming out and running. So thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, and it's nice to hear that you couldn't wait for them over. There are at this point 3 more episodes to go, and then that's it. And what I have been saying to people is that's the end of this story arc, so that's the end of Morrison and Brown and all of the adventures that they've been on. But I very deliberately chose the name Tales from a Jurassic World, so going forward maybe I could pick a tale from a Jurassic World to tell each time. So we'll see what happens.
Excellent. Really looking forward to it. And just to throw it out there at the very end, there's potentially a book coming on the way as well.
So since we spoke last, I've written 2 more chapters, so that is something fantastic. At least. So my book at the moment, though, it's like I'm not into dinosaur territory yet. We have a prologue that is a Velociraptor attack in some misty woods, and then the next 7 chapters are all setting up the character dynamics between the father and son who are going on a trip to the woods. But if you happen to pay attention in the prologue, you might have alarm bells going off in your head, because the woods they're going to are the same woods where that raptor attack happened.
You heard it here first, guys. There's your teaser. Amazing stuff. My final question to you, Tom, is: do you sleep?
I charge. There's a station in the corner that I slot into. And it's a fast charge socket, so it's about 2 to 3 hours. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for coming back on again. I think we've covered all bases. We're all recording separately in different ways, so one way or the other, this will be out. And I'll see you guys on the other side. We're so close now. It's maybe we can chat it out later and see what we discussed and whether it all came true or
see
we were
how
miles
wrong
off.
we were. Yeah.
Let's see how many things from the novel came to fruition. That'd be an interesting chat, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
Absolutely nothing except the riverboat scene.
Yeah. Yeah, the only officially confirmed part. Yeah, that's right.
Since I was a child,
well, thank you very much.
Tried to be what I am not. I've lied and I've enjoyed it all my life. I lied to my dear mother, to my sisters and my brother. Now I'm lying to my children and my wife. Did you have no care?
Life will not be contained. Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously, but, well, there it is. There it is. I'm simply saying that life, finds a way.
That'll do it for another episode of the Jurassic Park Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening in and sharing in our love of the Jurassic Park novels, of the new upcoming movie. There's a lot to love. Look, I really hope you enjoyed everything I put together. I've been thinking about this novel read-through moment for a while now. I know there's probably a bunch of other sections that I could have read through, as the other guys, kind of mentioned a lot of those sections, but the River Raft sequence is the one that we know that they've been promoting so much. We've seen a ton of it in the marketing, and I just wanted to go through it and just kind of remind myself what that was like, and also throw a bunch of audio on top of that. So I hope you enjoyed that. Also, a huge thank you to Ben for setting up that conversation with Simon and Tom. You can find everybody's links in the show notes. I appreciate each and every one of you for joining in this conversation and, diving deep into the book. And I think, Ben has always been so great about bringing those kinds of conversations to the show with the Jurassic Park Book Club. So I'm really excited about that. Maybe we'll get some more once the movie comes out and everybody knows, what kind of moments from the novel have made it forward into Rebirth. But for now, it remains a mystery here on Monday, the 23rd. But yes, thank you so much to everybody involved in this episode. And yeah, thank you as always to our podcast host, Podomatic, for giving us a place to upload the show each and every week. Everybody out there, please, please just know that you matter. Stay safe. Everybody out there, please just stay safe, be kind, fight for representation, change, and equality in the Jurassic franchise, but more importantly, outside of it, in the real world, where people are real people. It's especially needed these days. So let's make sure to make this world a better place. I'm going to go ahead and hand things off to myself for the outro. Take it away.
Saddle up, let's get this movable feast underway.
Continue the conversation with us on Threads and Instagram. Watch our content on TikTok and YouTube. Find us on the web at JurassicParkPodcast.com. You'll find today's episode show notes, articles, contributor bios, and so much more. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, our website, and wherever else podcasts are found. So please be sure to follow along and share with your friends, family, and fellow Jurassic fans. If you haven't already, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We will read your Apple reviews at the end of most episodes, so be sure to spare no expense. Don't miss our Wednesday night live streams, toy hunts, reviews, in-depth bonus content, gameplay, event and theme park coverage on our YouTube channel. If you want to get a hold of us or participate in the Jurassic Mailbag, you can fill out the contact form on our website or send emails and MP3s to JurassicParkPod@gmail.com. Feel free to call our voicemail line at any time to leave us a message or just to say hi. That number is 732-825-7763. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, enjoy.